I took the title for this series of poems from Richard Wilbur's title poem from one of his volumes from the late 90s called Mayflies, the ragged patch of glow where he saw these mayflies going up and down in their millions or trillions. But Wilbur has quite a range of lyric poems, and I keep coming back to him often just because I love his poems so much. This one seems in some ways very different from the others in that it isn't a description of nature as he apprehends it, like in Love Calls Us to the Things of This World, where the wind outside suddenly becomes a metaphor for angels as it goes through the hanging laundry. I'll have to do that one later, I think. This poem is very much interior. It's called Mind. And I'm going to read through it, and then I will say a few things about what seem to me its oddities and its brilliance. Mind by Richard Wilbur. Mind in its purest play is like some bat that beats about in caverns all alone, contriving by a kind of senseless wit not to conclude against a wall of stone. It has no need to falter or explore. Darkly it knows what obstacles are there, and so may weave and flitter, clip and dip and soar in perfect courses through the blackest air. And has this simile a like perfection? The mind is like a bat, precisely, save that in the very happiest of intellection, a graceful error may correct the cave. So what does Wilbur mean by mind in its purest play? I think it's probably best not to internalize this too much. I'll make it some sort of Cartesian, I think, therefore I am exercise, though, perhaps that's an illusion here. I would suggest that Wilbur is imagining the kind of mental play that goes on in the great mathematicians and physicists. Maybe he has Einstein in mind here, certainly a contemporary when he was a young poet. He imagines a bat beating about in caverns all alone. Why a bat? We have so many bad associations now. But he's interested in the phenomenon of echolocation, pretty obviously here. That is, how does the bat know where to go? How does it contrive by this senseless wit not to conclude against a wall of stone? Wonderful word, conclude, since that is so apropos of arguments and of logic, which seems to be part of what he's dealing with. But this is not mind simply in logical formulations, but in a pure, soaring kind of play among things that can't be seen, which is precisely the point, I think, if we're thinking of physics or pure mathematics. It may weave and flitter, dip and soar in perfect courses through the blackest air. No sight to be had in here. No images, as it were, except those of flight itself. So how is the mind like a bat? Well, it's exactly like that, if in its purest intellection, if only for this one objection, that in the very happiest of intellection, a graceful error may correct the cave. What does that mean? It's an error there, obviously, playing on the etymology of the word, which means to wander, so that in mind, something that might not have been anticipated at all, something that doesn't have to do with the preset walls of the cave, can suddenly alter the whole shape of what mind is. A graceful error may correct the cave. A wonderful opening for that kind of miraculous intervention or sudden intuition that changes the very way we think. I can't help but refer here to Plato's allegory of the cave, which has to do with that realm of opinion in which most of us are most of the time trapped. And I think that if we put Wilbur's image here together with the paradigm shift that we hear so much about, we sense the way in which this bat-like, but not literally bat-like mind can correct the cave itself.